Good evening, good evening. How are you doing tonight? Great, great. Will you help me thank Mario for putting this together? Come on, let's give Mario a hand for his vision of unity. My name is Pastor Moultrie of St. Peter Missionary Baptist Church here in Troy, and I'm here to do your invocation. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the forgiveness of our sins and our shortcomings and downfalls. Father, we pray that you would just open the minds of the people that they received what Dr. Johnson had for us. Father, we pray that you give us traveling grace, give us safe travels back to our destination. And Father, we pray for unity among ourselves. Father, we pray for unity among our brothers and our sisters. And God, if there's anything that we can do to help one another, God, we understand we must forgive. So Father, we pray that you will just plant the seed of forgiveness in brothers and sisters, that we can live in peace, that we can live in unity. And God, again, we thank you for Brother Mario and his vision to bring unity in this community at this university. These are other blessings we thank you for in your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Huh? Oh, I thought you were talking right here in the gym with you.
I want to say peace to the family. Well, now we talking about peace. My name is Mitchell Sneed. I'm doing some spoken word, but again, I'd like to thank you all for coming out. Thank the choir. We get ready to show up and show out shortly, but give your hand a round of applause for coming out tonight. And real quick before I begin, for everybody who have lost a family member, a loved one, may it be from gun violence, may it be from police brutality, we want to send prayers up to the families who have lost someone or have felt the effects of that. So with that, I want to go into my piece called Speak My Truth. I can stand here, flat-footed, 10 toes down and talk about everything from Sun God to Timbuktu, where both met canoe. But before I go back, let me bring it right here to Missouri, Mizzou, where some of my constituents said that when they viewed it on TV, they saw anger, rage, and blind fury. But on the contrary, I saw unity. That when divine minds combine, can overthrow the status quo of everything gonna be all right. One day we'll overcome. But thumbs down. See, change won't change until we begin to change what is in our own selves. See, we went from kings and rulers to now being goons, goblins, and robbers. Our women went from being queens and upheld to respect to now we're thoughts and bombs. Now, I know that sounds offensive, and it should. 2 men out of 4 parents have died. We sat, they stood. I'm talking about self-reliance and unity, but you asking me what's popping, what's good, what's hood, my ninja? Are you serious? Hell, Kunta Kinte even had his foot cut off for freedom because he didn't want to be oppressed by whips and chains. Now we become savages for whips and chains. You tell me to calm down, I can't, because I was ordained to be king. So you have a choice. The red, green pill. Which one will you choose? Before you choose, read the ingredients carefully. And I suggest to you, choose the one that says power is unity. Peace.
Well, everybody know we're going to do another raffle. We got the guys from Power One Clothing. I'm going to let him go ahead and speak about it.
Much peace, family. How are y'all? All right, all right. We're Power One Clothing. We are the Revolution's favorite label based out of Washington, D.C., as well as Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you go to PIOclothing.com, as well as Power in One altogether, that's Power IN1 on all your social media, you can stay connected with our movement. Once again, PIOclothing.com. We definitely want to give a special shout out to the guest speaker tonight, Mr. Dr. Umar Johnson, because every time he has a lecture series as he tours across the country, he always provides an avenue for black-owned businesses to come out and connect with the people. So definitely give it up for that. Definitely give it up for that. So we appreciate him. We appreciate Brother Mario as well. So we're about to raffle off our I Love Tea. I Love Tea is our best seller, and it says, I love my culture, I love my people, I love me. So that's what we're about to raffle off here. So if you win this and you need a different size, definitely come to the table and we can swap it out. You also get one of our snapbacks. So here we go. Last four, we're gonna go 6990. 6990. Going once. Going twice. All right, we're gonna go to the next one. Here we go. All right, we're gonna go 6943. 6943. 6943 going once, twice. All right. All right, next one, 6945. Oh. And we'll take care of both of y'all, okay? So both of them can come on now. We got y'all. 4-3 and 4-5. Yeah. There we go. So 4-3, you can meet us up at the table when you get a chance, okay? All right, we got you. Here you go. Appreciate it once again. And if y'all can stay connected with us at PIOclothing.com. Much peace, family.
I just want to thank everybody again for coming out. Y'all never noticed I didn't introduce myself because my name is not really that important. The message is what's more important out here tonight. So next we're going to bring up Miss beautiful Sheila Jackson. She's going to bless you guys with her. I'm sorry. No, we're not going to do Sheila Jackson. I apologize. We're going to do the incredibly gifted Mrs. Jasmine Mans.
Dear First Lady, I watched as my 4-year-old cousin sat in the mirror, placed my grandmother's pearls around her neck and said, Jazz, do I look like Michelle Obama? This little girl who did not know how to say Rice Krispie or macaroni and cheese properly said your name as if it existed on her long list of heroes in between Snow White and Santa Claus. My little cousin does not know about Jim Crow. She does not know your view on the healthcare reform, nor can she point to Chicago on a map. But she knows black Barbie dolls in that time. How to identify your face in a land filled of misrepresented women who share our skin color like a sequenced revolution. She knows your smile, Michelle. She knows the day that her mother jumped up and down crying. November 4th's black and red dresses, how to say African American better than her own first name. You proved that her identity belongs somewhere in this American dream. She knows that if she can find your face in the jumbled channels on television, that there's a possibility she can stay up past her bedtime. You are everything her mother never got a chance to be. Post-traumatic slave syndrome breaking free, cover girl's beauty of the week, a love story sprinkled in an inaugural speech, and someone she can mistake for her mom. Do you know what that means? It means that she traded in her Dora the Explorer costume for a brooch of the American flag and a t-shirt with your husband's face on it. And for the first time, I could identify the revolution that would actually change this world. And it is not in how many Barack and Martin comparisons we can make, was the idea of little boys jumping up and down on their beds with the American flag tied around their necks and actually believing that they can fly. It's in little girls with the dreams and their grandmother's pearls, my little cousin. She does not know about the war in Iraq. She just wonders if Sasha and Malia like to flute, and if you force them to eat their Flintstone vitamins too. I guess this poem is a thank you. Thank you for being a brown girl's dream come true, something tangible to look up to, because I know that our skin color exists on timelines of women who had craters engraved in their backs, stretch marks similar to maps of underground railroads, grandmothers who couldn't afford all the ingredients to the recipe of the American pie, women who laid down their lives shredded with chips and cracks in their spine, dying to inject more estrogen in mankind, creating tradition under the idea that if I can't afford my daughter the world, a college degree, or at least a decent meal tonight, I will wrap my grandmother's pearls around her neck like a gravity-stricken halo, and I will whisper in her ear, baby, if I can't, you will. How do you tell a woman that raising a black son isn't some type of inside joke crafted by God and some white man? How do you tell a woman that raising a black son isn't some type of inside joke crafted by God and some white man? Can you prove to me that they are not in heaven, snickering at the soul of a single-parent mother, dressing her son up for graduation, hoping he can make it across the stage, down the aisle, or off the balcony, quick enough to not get caught in his skin at the wrong time? I've touched the bellies of women who aborted black boys like thrown overboard slaves, who will look you in the eyes like a bluebird awakening to a Holocaust and whisper, I am just afraid to raise a black son. A black boy is just a trembling soul suffocating in a fabric that always seems to make you scratch around your neck. The tag that always seems to make you itch around your noose collar. How can you tell a mother holding her son in a delivery room, praying that his skin doesn't get any darker, hoping that it stays his life, and deceiving as the sunrise in the ghetto that her son isn't some white man's pit stop, that her son's body isn't a chamber for some bigot to sow his sin in southern accent, and that her son isn't some color toy for the rich blue-eyed boys. I am just afraid to raise a black son who will spend the rest of his life praying for a melody or a melanin safe enough to scream in. A son who has to be a martyr for a war that he ain't ever asked for. Loving something so disposable, never set well in the bodies or hearts of mothers trying to catch a break in a teaspoon of sugar on this here land. Dear Kanye West, you look hungry. Like that girl don't make you no fried chicken or macaroni and cheese. Like she don't feel you on the inside. Like you haven't had a home-cooked meal since your mom died. You look like you lost the song in your own song. Like you want to talk to God, but you're afraid because y'all ain't spoken so long. Do you tell your daughter about me? How we were bittersweet, to never mess with entertainers because they always leave. That he'll get on and he'll leave your ass for a white girl. And he'll give her your style, your language, your waist. Damn near try to give her your face. And somewhere in his post-traumatic, twisted fantasy, he'll make it all okay, but what's the word in loving a man who's lost his smile anywhere? When Kim fucks up the lyrics to the college dropout like them white folks used to mess up your name, do you pretend not to notice? Do you regret the Marilyn Monroe in your decision and wish you could have taken Billie Holiday as your bride? Do you ever want to run back to your wedding day and have it all over on the South Side? Do you wake up in the middle of the night and just think that she wasn't the right girl? Like you should have found one of them I like art type girls. Can you hear all the black kids calling your name? Wondering why the boy who rapped about his mama getting arrested for the sit-ins didn't sit in. Why he traded in his Nat Turner for Ralph the Wren. Do you know how many kids at the protest had your sneakers on? None of them. Do you know how many of your songs were played at the protest? All of them. Did you hear all of the lies? The flashing lights, the new slaves, the runaways on their road to redemption waiting for Malcolm West to have the whole world at attention. Nigga, they got you quiet. Like, how come only at award shows he riots? Maybe Jesus was all talk. Jesus never needed Adidas to walk. Why does he outline the speakers when Why does he outline the speakers when the South Side is outlined in chalk? Can someone go and find the man who could make a diamond with his own bare hands? We are looking for you. Because these kids still want to be just like you. They want to rap and make soul beats just like you. Even though you just not you. Even though you traded in your spaceship to buy back your 40 acres and a mule. Purchased the plantation and master's daughters too. Why you got these white folks claiming you? Like they built you, like they made you, like they polished you, like they ready for a good nigga for the picking, like they got you for sale. Oh, how they love Kanye. Let's put them all in front of the store. Like you their black boy. You forgot you black boy. They got you lost in this world. You getting blackmailed for that white girl. You don't see how your lives is affecting me. You don't see how our lives are supposed to be. And I never let it get that close to me. And you ain't cracked up to what you were supposed to be. I guess it's bittersweet poetry. I got one more poem. There are kids across this country on college campuses, black kids, fighting, just like us, just like y'all. And I think y'all fight every day. Going to school, people fighting every single day. And I think the parents who send their children to school fight every day. Parents who don't know what it's like to go to college, but trusted that they've raised the child strong enough to come back 4 years from now with a college degree. Thank you. This poem is very vulgar, but I promise it has meaning. So I'm sorry. I haven't developed the radio version really well yet. I know niggas in tin boots that stomp your face. Prisons that got bars that are better than yours. You know, I would say that I'm sunning you bastards, but if it was left up to me, you would have been gone by the morning after. If Asada Shakur broke out of prison, why would I respect a nigga doing a bitch sentence for no snitching? You got your niggas out here dying deaths bloodier than Christ, yet not even worth half the sacrifice. If Malcolm killed for freedom, why would I respect anybody out here killing for bragging rights? You females are MCs, but half the life, all you do is rap about your pussy, so your rhymes and your walls are half as tight. The baddest bitch, all the bars, and half the bite. Tonight, everybody gonna eat in the kitchen, and if that white girl gonna twerk and rap, she gonna have to ask a whole lot of black girls for permission. I love that line. And if that white girl gonna twerk and rap, she gonna have to ask a whole lot of black girls for permission. Never needed Martin to tell me that 1 million men weren't made to march to Maybach music. There is no secondary to revolutionary, so I put Calvary in my vocabulary. And if I'm my father's child, then my resurrection is hereditary. All you niggas seem to talk about is pussy clothes and gunplay. But God so loved the world that he sent me to spit you an Easter Sunday. Your reign is over, it's his son's day. Don't make it rain if you can't make it grow. Don't say you love your hood but can't spit a 16 about hope. Don't say you believe in God if you're the same man who gained the whole world for the price of his soul. Don't say that numbers don't lie if they made you believe that you could put a price on your soul. And all you have to show for yourself is a body with tattoos and nice clothes. Answer me this: is a fly nigga really a fly nigga if no one's around to see him when the curtains close? Or do niggas who say they get just really get pictures of all he are hoes? Ignorance is the man who thinks he's winning but can't pronounce the credits on his own CD with the tags on his own clothes. I get it. You should stick to polo. It's only 2 syllables, you know. I always pictured Kanye with one of Carol's daughters, never a Kardashian, but nowadays even Carol's daughters don't even look apples. If God forgives and you don't, that makes you half the man, yet all the sin. But I guess there is no point of believing in God if you can't see him. Yeah. And if he is small enough to wear around your neck, I see why some of you think you can be him. You mistake heaven for being rich, honesty for being a snitch, real weight for being a clip. Soon you won't even be able to tell the difference between your daughters. Thank you so much for
Standing next beside me, the president of the local NAACP chapter for Troy University, Mr. William James Jackson. I'm gonna change my last name to Jackson. But I do want to give a special thanks to Mr. Jackson, as well as Ms. Sheila Jackson, and everybody else who helped make this event happen. Definitely without you guys, we wouldn't be sitting here right now, so I appreciate that, and I thank you all for it. But now it's that time to bring up the strongest brother I ever met, the true prince himself of Pan-Africanism, Frederick Douglass's cousin on his mama's side. Let's get our brother up here, get your hands together. Let's welcome Dr. Umar Johnson to the stage, everybody.
And the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling,
Alabama, make some noise! Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. It's an honor to be here with you to share a few remarks. For those of you who may not be familiar with who I am, I'm Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology. I'm also a certified school psychologist, certified school principal, and a political scientist. I'm in private practice in Pennsylvania, where I evaluate children for special education, disability, and eligibility. And so the first thing that needs to be said here and now, especially to all my parents in the audience who are listening, we have to, we must, I implore you to please think twice, think thrice before you subject your son or daughter to an evaluation for special education eligibility. Too many black boys and too many black girls are being diagnosed with glow-in-the-dark, unscientific, cannot be proven learning disabilities. I need you to understand that when I evaluate your son, when I evaluate your daughter, that evaluation, although it is scientific in many respects, is very much subject to my professional opinion. 99% of all the school psychologists in America are something other than African American. That means 99% of our children who are being diagnosed with learning disabilities, diagnosed with ADHD, diagnosed with conduct disorder, diagnosed with intellectual disabilities, diagnosed with emotional disturbances, are being diagnosed by people who are not culturally competent to complete the evaluations. More so, what I find far too often, the problem and the culprit is not that the child has a learning issue, but it's often you, the parents, who have a parenting issue. Far too often, the child is made the scapegoat for what we as the adults are not doing. If I went into your house right now, how many of you have a bookshelf for your child? And many of you who don't have a bookshelf for your children, you will have video games, you will have cell phones, you will have high definition TVs, you will have the internet. Now, there's a problem with that, because if a black boy cannot read by the time he finishes the 5th grade, there's a 75% chance that he will spend some of his adulthood in prison. If he cannot read, he's likely to end up being someone's inmate in someone's jail. So we have to look at the role that we play in the community. Parents in particular, you have to look at the role we play as it relates to the mass incarceration of black boys. When someone tells you your child has a learning disability, kindly ask them to prove it. You cannot prove a learning disability. It is a professional opinion. When I evaluate your child, I give him an IQ test, I give him a reading test, I give him a math test, an emotional assessment, a psychological assessment, a visual motor assessment. But all of these tests only reveal scores. The tests provide me with numbers. The test does not provide me with a diagnosis. The diagnosis is something I derive from my own self-interpretation. So if you tell me that you have a son in special ed for a reading disability, what you're telling me is you bought into somebody else's opinion about what your son can and cannot do. This is our fault. Special education was created in 1975 by the United States Congress. For what reason? To pave the way for the resegregation of black children separate from white children. Special education was the comeback for school desegregation. Special education was the comeback for white privilege. Special education was the program that would guarantee that black boys in America never get that opportunity to be all that the society claims that they could be. There's 6 stages in the miseducation war against black boys. The first stage is just that, miseducation. From preschool to the 3rd grade, black boys are deliberately undereducated, deliberately miseducated, on purpose. This is not an accident. It has nothing to do with there not being enough money to pay the teachers. It has nothing to do with the textbooks being old. It has nothing to do with single-parent black mothers. It has nothing to do with fatherlessness. The school system is designed to fail. And why? Because if you properly educate a black boy, you upset the status quo in America. If you properly educate the black boy, you set him up as a rival to the white male child for the political economic dominance of this society. It is on purpose. It is not an accident. So after they miseducate from preschool to second grade, then they special educate. That's when they send a child to me. Dr. Johnson, we think he has a math disability. Dr. Johnson, we think he has a reading disability. Dr. Johnson, we think he has ADHD. Ain't no daddy at home disorder. ADHD. And why do I call ADHD ain't no daddy at home disorder? Because the American Psychiatric Association gave us ADD in 1980. Is that a coincidence? No, it is not. 1980 is the same year that the cocaine import agency CIA brought drugs into the black community and started locking up black fathers for participating in the illegal economy. So if the father in jail, the mother is left at home to do something that no mother should be expected to do on their own, and that is transform a boy into a man. With the discipline lacking in the household, rather than identify the problem as being fatherlessness, the American Psychiatric Association and the American Psychological Association and the publicly traded Wall Street drug companies rushed in to get paid off the fatherlessness of black boys, and they invented ADHD. Now, when we look at the diagnostic criteria of ADHD, anyone who sees the criteria can tell that this is regular boy behavior. Not being able to sit still is regular boy behavior. Losing attention from time to time is regular boy behavior. Forgetting some things you need to get your work done is regular boy behavior. Tapping with your hands and feet at the desk. We've been doing that since I was in third grade. Regular boy behavior. But when the schoolhouse is dominated by female energy, when the schoolhouse is dominated by female energy, a masculine child will be considered disordered in an environment that is run by feminine energy. So the issue with the black boy is not that he does not want to learn. The black boy wants to learn as much as everyone else, but he should not be marginalized and ridiculed for being a boy. A boy has testosterone. A girl has estrogen. Testosterone is an energy hormone. You cannot expect a prepubescent 11 and 12-year-old kid to sit still for 7 hours a day with something you can't do yourself as a grown man or woman. The medication parents, what is wrong with y'all? With this Ritalin, with this Adderall, Concerta, Cycler, Depakote, Prozac, Paxil, Risperdal. What's wrong with you giving your son crack? Ritalin is classified by the Drug Enforcement Agency of America as crack. It is cocaine in a synthesized form. And so you give your son medication so he can get an education. He's given medicine so he can sit still long enough to learn about Christopher Columbus. The problem is not your son. The problem is the system, which is why I'm on a crusade to build the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy, a school designed for African boys, where they don't have to sit still all day. A school where we don't need special education because there will be no excuses for why the boys don't learn. We won't need your ADHD. You can keep it. And as well as that, you can keep your learning disability, you can keep your math disability, you can keep your conduct disorder. Because when the school is designed to meet the best interests of the African boy, then the African boy has no choice but to partake in the learning. So what do we want to teach at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy? Number one, we want to teach agricultural science. And why do we want to teach agricultural science? Because 85% of African Americans in this country are dying from food-related disease. So if we want to save our children, if we want to properly educate the next generation of African babies, we have to teach them how to grow their own food. And not only that, how to study the soil for the nutritional content therein. So in order for your son to graduate from my school, your school, our school, he will have to prove that he can sustain life by living off the earth, not living off of McDonald's. The next thing we're going to teach is political science, not just African history.
Right, come on.
They need to know we built the pyramids. That's wonderful. They need to know that we gave to the world every science. That's wonderful. But what good is mastering your ancient African history when you're contemporarily and politically stupid today? Your children need to know why President Obama was selected before he was elected. Your children need to know why black men in America and black men in South Africa, and I just came from South Africa 48 hours ago, why black men in South Africa, black men in America have the fastest growing incarceration rate in the world. They need to know why black people in America are going to college more than everybody else in America, but we still lead in unemployment. They need to know that the AIDS virus was invented, paid for by the United States Army Bioweapons Lab, Fort Detrick, Maryland, to reduce the population of Africans in the world. They need to know that the ghettos were not created by black folk. The ghettos was created by the Federal Housing Authority of the United States government. They need to know that you can go to college and get your bachelor's and get your master's and get your doctorate, but if you don't get an economic opportunity, you will still be in a soup kitchen. Our children need to understand the world in which they live, so political science is relevant. And then we're going to teach them the biggest thing, the Achilles heel of black folk, and that is what? Economic science. That means by the time your son is 13 years old, he will already know how to do his own taxes. By the time he's 14 years old, he will have his own business plan. By the time he's 15 years old, he would have already mastered the real estate market of Alabama. By the time he's 16 years old, he would have already mastered stocks, bonds, trading, and investments, and will have his own portfolio. And on graduation day, not only will he have to look forward to college, but he'll look forward to open his own business. Because if there's one thing that African Americans need to understand, is that education doesn't always equal opportunity.
That's right.
When I was in South Africa the past month, the brothers and sisters in South Africa, they protested because the university system in South Africa wanted to raise the tuition, which made education beyond the reach for a lot of your brothers and sisters in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Soweto, Pretoria. So they took to the streets. And they forced President Zuma and the ruling government of the ANC to cancel the fee hike. But why did they raise the fees in the first place? And this is relevant for Troy University. This is relevant for Tuskegee. This is relevant for Alabama A&T. This is relevant for University of Alabama.
Alabama State.
See, in a post-racial society, you cannot appear to be overtly racist.
That's right.
So you have to hide and tuck your racism in such a way that it looks like the victim was responsible for their own circumstance. So if we want to keep the amount of African American doctors at a minimal level, if we want to keep the amount of African American lawyers and engineers at a minimum level, we just simply can't deny them access to education. We have to raise the fee so they can't afford to go in the first place. So when people ask, why so few black professionals in Alabama? You can say it has nothing to do with race. It's because they didn't sign up to go to college in the first place. So that's one of the strategies. But what you have to understand is fighting to go to college is not the big fight. And I support what's going on in our universities right now. Brothers and sisters all over the place, not just Missouri, Yale. Sitting here tonight, my city, Philadelphia, the students are engaged in a protest right now. They want free education. I support that. They want the fees reduced. They want an end to racism. I support that. But guess what? There's one mistake being made. And the mistake is the assumption that going to college is going to give you the opportunity that you need. We got to understand that power comes from economic opportunity. Power comes from wealth. Power don't come from education. I didn't say don't get it. I have 6 degrees myself, but do not be remiss to not understand that economic power can be built without college. And what's going on in America right now is they're creating a narrative to make every black high school student think that in order to make it in life, you have to go to college. And the only institution that is benefiting from black people's belief that you can only make it with a college degree is the banks of America that are literally putting us in debt for the rest of our lives in the name of higher education. Sister Oprah spent millions of dollars putting black people through college. LeBron just put out $45 million. Black celebrities are regularly paying for African American children to get an education. So Dr. Umar, what do you disagree? I disagree with that. Because that $40 million that LeBron is putting out, that's not really helping those children, but it is making the bank rich. It is making the college rich. So what would I say to LeBron? What would I say to Oprah? I would say instead of paying for college, instead of giving $45 million to the banks and the institutions, put that money in small business loans and let them open up an opportunity for themselves. Brothers and sisters, up until 1970, you could graduate from high school as a plumber, as a carpenter, as an engineer, as an auto body mechanic, as an HVAC specialist, as a barber, as a brick mason, as a computer networker, and you can live a comfortable middle-class life with a high school education and a building skilled trade license. Many of us got grandparents and great-grandparents who never had to come to the University of Troy. They didn't have to go to Tuskegee either. They graduated from high school with a credential that allowed them to work for themselves. But after civil rights, when the 1964 Civil Rights Bill got passed, black folk were so tired of being forced to work with their hands that we said we wanted to use our heads from now on. And when we said that, we started sending all of our kids to college, even those who we knew were not prepared, which is a very big problem. Because when you send a child to college who you know doesn't have the discipline to finish. And parents, what is my definition of discipline? It's the ability to teach your child how to do what needs to be done when it has to be done, whether they like it or not. And some of us are not doing a good job of teaching discipline at home. If you were, there would be no ADHD. If you were, there would be no conduct disorder. If you were, there would be no Ritalin, Adderall, Cycler. So because we're no longer teaching black children the importance of self-discipline, they are falling for all the trappings of society. And so you send them to Troy University, undisciplined, He drops out or gets kicked out in 2 years. Now he's back on your couch with no degree, but he owed $30,000 in student loans. So by sending him to college, you didn't give him a foot up, you gave him a foot back, because now he's minus 30 in the hole. We got to rethink this college thing. Black people, we suffer because of economic disorganization. We often cry about how we don't like what the schools is doing to our children, the special education, the psychiatric medication, the juvenile incarceration. But guess what, Alabama? If you were really sick and tired, if you were really sick and tired of the public schools in Alabama, if you were really fed up with what our sons are going through, if you were really fed up with what our daughters are going through, guess what you would do? You would boycott Christmas.
Come on, black man.
And you would take your Jesus money and you would save it and you would put it together and you will build or buy one of these abandoned schools in Alabama and give your children an independent education. If you really were fed up, but you're not really fed up, because you'd rather buy hair than buy education. You ain't really fed up. Brothers, you'd rather get a new car than pay for your child's education. One thing we study as psychologists is something I call post-traumatic slavery disease. What is post-traumatic slavery disease? And by the way, everybody in here got something. And if you think you ain't got nothing, you're the worst one in here. Post-traumatic slavery disease was a psychological condition that took place from 1619 going on 2019, almost 400 years for the American colonies. And in this process, African people were trained and conditioned against one thing. We can reduce it down to one thing. Post-traumatic slavery disease was about making you comfortable with being on the bottom. You are comfortable, not only no part of Alabama, you are comfortable shopping from people who don't look like you and can't stand you. You are comfortable putting your money in a bank that does not reinvest in your community. You are comfortable worshiping the image of a deity that looks like your enemy. You are comfortable. Some of y'all probably want to say, what does the color of Christ have to do with it, Doc? Well, let me ask you a question. If the color of Christ didn't matter, why did your enslaver spend over 500 years hunting down, tracking down every image of a black Jesus and systematically paint him white? If the color didn't matter, why did they have to commission Leonardo da Vinci to paint a white Jesus and the 12 disciples in 1482, the same year they built the largest slave dungeon in West Africa? If it didn't matter, it does matter. And let me tell you how it matters. Your brain stores all information in pictures. In symbols, we call them archetypes. Your brain does not store words, it stores images. If an African boy or girl is taken to Sunday school every week and shown the image of God in the flesh of a European, as they grow into preschool, as they grow into elementary school, the brain will automatically associate the divinity of whiteness in God and make every white person your child sees a divine being. You cannot let a black child pray to a white Christ and expect him to respect his own black skin. But post-traumatic slavery disease makes you comfortable with your deity looking like your enemy. You have never seen white folk worship a white Jesus. You have never seen Chinese worship a black one. You have never seen the Arab worship a God in an image other than their own. The only human group on earth that will worship their God in a foreign flesh is you. Now let's talk about Willie Lynch for a minute. There was a slave master by the name of Willie Lynch in the Caribbean. He got a phone call one day because black folk up in the 13 colonies was revolting. Over 300 undocumented slave rebellions. Y'all need to know about this. Because when you don't know about this, you'll watch Roots or 12 Years a Slave. And every time you see the movie about black oppression, a white man got to come and save you from your oppression. But yesterday, November the 11th, was the anniversary of the November 11th, 1831 lynching of the most boldest black man who ever lived in America, Reverend Nat Turner. But when you watch television, whenever black folks got problems, somebody got to come and save us. That's the Jesus complex. Not Jesus in the Bible, but the image of a foreign savior that black people have to have because you're not able to fix your own problems. So when Willie Lynch came to the 13 colonies, he gathered all the slave masters together. And I know some of you are saying, well, wait a minute, Doc. Didn't some of the scholars say that the Willie Lynch letter was not authentic? Well, guess what? There's a lot of stories in the Bible and in the Quran that are not authentic, but the message and the meaning is crystal clear and very authentic. So what did Willie Lynch tell the slave masters? He said, 3 things you need and you can rule black folk to the end of time. He said, the first thing you do is teach those Negroes your language. You have to make sure they do not speak their own. You can give them 1,000,001 other European languages, but don't give them an African tongue. Why? Because language is the most powerful identifier of a culture. And if you want to destroy the culture of your slaves, you must break their tongue and give them yours. Furthermore, if they speak your language and not their own, they will never be able to carry on a conversation without you being able to understand it. You can give them Spanish, you can give them Portuguese, you can give them Greek, but don't you ever let them speak that African tongue. Psycholinguistics. The second thing he said, after you take their tongue, he said you have to use every petty difference amongst the Negro population and exaggerate it so they will fight like cats and dogs and never learn how to work together. He said put the Muslim against the Christian, the Igbo against the Yoruba, the Zulu against the Xhosa, the Tutsi against the Hutu, West Alabama against East Alabama. Put Tuskegee against A&M. Put Morehouse against Clark. Put the East Coast against the West Coast. Put the dark skin against the light skin. Put the college educated against the one in the neighborhood. And then make these differences appear like they actually mean something. In other words, make sure the slave believes, although not true, that you actually look at some of them as being better than the others. And then the third thing, he said you must do this third thing. And what was that? You must show the black woman that the black man has absolutely no power whatsoever. He said, gather all the slave women, line them up, and then gather all the slave children and line them up, and then bring out the strongest, boldest, most unapologetically Negro male slave you have. Whip him, beat him, castrate him, tar and feather him. And when he only got an ounce of life left, you tie one leg to one horse and another leg to the other horse, and beat the two horses in two separate directions so they ripped his body into pieces. This must be done to instill terror and fear in the black woman and her children. Because if the black woman sees what the white man can do to the black male, she will raise all the black boys on the plantation to be cowards and scared of the power structure. My black mothers in here, I know you care about your sons and you're supposed to care about your son, but don't you strip him of his manhood by being too afraid of the consequences of being a man. For a coward dies but a man dies but once, but the coward will die 1,000 times before his final death. And what do I hear from mothers? Dr. Umar, my son's daddy was in jail, so I didn't want to be hard on him. We grew up poor, so I didn't want to be hard on him. He saw his uncle get shot in front of him dead. His uncle raised him. I want to take it easy on my boy. He's been through a lot. I got one question for you, you single black mothers. I got one question. What the hell favor you think your son gonna get in this society by you spoiling him and babying him and not making him the responsible man that he got to be in order to make it out here? You don't spoil no boy, make him a man! American society has no pity for the black male. You giving your son 2 or 3 chances in your house to break the rules? You babying him, spoiling him, letting him do whatever he wants? It ain't funny. You set him up for failure. The white male will give him 1 chance to mess up. The police officer pull that gun out and say, "Be still!" And you don't be still. You just gave that racist a justification to take your son's life. And why did your son feel he didn't have to stop? Because in your house, in your house, you yell 5 or 6 times before he stopped. So he thought when he leaves the house, he gets another 5 or 6 times. So you're setting him up for failure and you don't even know it. Black man, I do not care how much you cannot stand the mother of your children. Nobody forced you to lay down with that woman, so you take care of those children. I don't care what attitude you have towards that woman. Those are your babies, and you don't let no woman run you away from your children.
That's right. That's right.
We know about racism. We can talk all night about white supremacy. I don't care how many Obamas and Ben Carsons go in the White House. Your status will always be as the underclass until you make up your mind to change it. And no president can do it. This you must do for yourself. See, you can legislate hate crime. You can legislate civil rights. You can legislate desegregation. But there's no law in America that can make white people respect you. There's no law in this world that's going to make anybody look at you with anything other than pity. Only you can do that. Listen, black men, we have to stop competing with each other, and we got to come together and organize because we need each other. Black men, the fastest growing suicide rate in the modern world. I get about 3 text messages a month of a black man taking their own life. And what I need y'all to understand as a therapist now, That angry attitude that our boys be walking around with, super thugged out, I'm the hardest thing in Bama, that ain't nothing but a front. Listen, the hardest child cries the hardest when they come into my office. The hard exterior is a defense because they don't think nobody cares about them. Black boys got it bad, but black girls got it bad too. And guess what is the greatest weapon used against black girls? It ain't ADHD, that's mostly boys. It ain't special ed, that's mostly boys. It's not school expulsion, that's mostly boys. So what is the weapon they use against the girls? You know what it is? It's the belief that she ain't beautiful unless she looks like a white female. And my mothers in here, I'm gonna get on y'all. Cause see, y'all love to call me up and say, Dr. Johnson, my son going to the prom next week. And we got all these beautiful African sisters in the neighborhood. But guess who he chose to take on the prom? Solly Jones from the suburbs. I need you to come talk to my son. Why is he taking the white child and not the black child? And I say, mother, how do you wear your hair? Mother, do you put foundation on your face? Mother, how many perms do you force into your African scalp? Mother, have you considered plastic surgery to play with your nose and your lips? Your son didn't learn to love white girls on TV or radio. He learned to love white girls by watching his mama imitate them all his life. So guess what? After we opened up the Fred Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy, I got to turn right around and open up the Anna Douglas and Amy Garvey Academy for the little girls. And I want all you mothers in here to hear me now. When your daughter shows up to my school, I want you to know that the Anna Douglas and Amy Garvey Academy is a happy to be nappy institution. That means there will be no perm, no weave, no wig, no extension, no process, no straightening comb, no European hair color. Your daughter will love herself as God made her, not the Korean hair care company. I know some of you are like, who is this man to be telling me how to wear my hair because I am a feminist? I'm not telling you how to wear your hair. I'm saying our daughters are being psychologically destroyed. I got two myself. But you're talking to a therapist and a principal. I see it in the school and I see it in the clinic. Do you know once upon a time you could hardly find a black girl with bulimia or anorexia eating disorder problems? Black women never had a problem with their hips. Neither do I. But all of a sudden, we got black girls in the high school binge eating, forcing themselves to vomit, to lose weight, dying from nutricide because they don't want to eat at all because mommy is saying you got to be a size 2 in order to be cute. So she's killing herself so she can look like this standard of beauty. Now I don't know about the other brothers in this auditorium, but black woman, I like you the way God made you. I like the hips, I like the mouth, I like a sister, do you understand? I'm not looking for no European copycat. Be you. And we want to teach your daughters to be them. I didn't say you had to change your hair, mother, because I wouldn't have no female students if I said that. I respect every sister in here, process or not. I don't knock you, sister. You grew up with me. You grew up in a certain generation where you was taught a certain standard of beauty by your parents. But I'm saying for our daughters, for the next generation, for the queens in training. We shall want them to be free of your unique psychological hangups. And if your son goes to a school where all the girls got a happy to be nappy natural head, the only thing your son could ever love or marry is a sister with a nappy head. Let me be clear. And I want to be clear for the people in the audience who ain't African. Because when you talk like this, the assumption comes that you're against another group. Right. I want the white students in here to know I'm not against you. Your daughter has as much right to be proud of who she is as Irish or German or Italian as an African girl does. But as a black man fighting for my people who are on the bottom, I need you to know that I am unapologetic in my position. I will offer no apologies. I will make no excuses. I'm not that type of black man. I'm going to say what I feel. I'm only going to dance when I like the music, and I'm not scratching unless I mention. I just need you to make sure you understand me. But sometimes when we say black power, people think that's the equivalent of when certain hate groups said white power. That's not what we, black power does not mean oppression against white folk. Black power does not mean inferiority for white folk. Black power simply says, we tired of being down, and we know God gave us the energy to get up if we don't get up. That's what black power means. At the Fred Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, we want to have the Aviation Academy. We're going to teach our young people how to fly airplanes. We're going to have a Maritime Academy. We're going to teach your sons how to float commercial vessels. Why? Is that necessary? Yes! How many black people you know own their own shipping company? Do you realize that 90% of everything you eat, 90% of everything you drive, 90% of everything you buy, 90% of everything you wear comes on a ship? 80 years ago, when the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey started the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation, Negroes didn't understand him. W.E.B. Du Bois said, what do we need with a shipping company for? And Mr. Garvey said, what do you mean, what do we mean? Without distribution, how do you build black economic power? Let me make this simple for you, Alabama. If there's a sister in here who makes pocketbooks, there's a brother in here who makes instruments. You want to sell your pocketbooks to black women in Europe? You want to sell it to black women in the Caribbean? You want to sell it to black women in Canada? You want to sell it to black women in Africa? What black company can you go to ship your pocketbooks around the world to other people who look like you? Not one. You got to go to somebody who don't look like you to distribute your merchandise. In other words, we are helpless without outside assistance. See, some of y'all think we made progress in America because you can drive a certain car, you can live in a certain house, you got a certain job, but you could walk out of here today and a police officer can take your life and won't spend 5 minutes in jail for it. Let me give you my definition of progress. And by the way, you're talking to a Pan-African nationalist. So I have a bias in my speech, okay? Progress is not how many black people work in the White House. Progress is not how many students get accepted to Troy University. Progress is not how many black folk make $50,000 a year or how many governors and mayors we elect. Progress, for me, is the extent to which you, since the end of slavery, December 6, 1865, in 3 weeks, it'll be December 6, 2015. This is your 150th year since the end of slavery. This is your sesquicentennial. And I got one question for you, black folk. What is your share of America's wealth today? When slavery ended, when the 13th Amendment was passed on December 6th of 1865, black people owned 1/2 of 1% of all the wealth in America. That was 150 years ago. You're 3 weeks away from your 150th anniversary of freedom. And I ask you, how much wealth do you own now? Guess what? You still only own 1/2 of 1% of all the wealth in America. So a century and a half in your share of America's wealth hasn't even grown a percentage point, and you running around talking about you free. There's two kinds of freedom. There's the kind white folk got, and there's the kind black folk got. White folk got the FREEDOM. That's the real freedom. Free from police brutality. Free from being injected with AIDS against your knowledge. Free from having your kids miseducated and put in special ed just for being black. Free from never having to get a job from a black person. And then you got the other kind of freedom. FREEDUMB. Freedom. That's the freedom to buy cars, the freedom to party, the freedom to twerk, the freedom to go to the BET Awards, the freedom to be ghetto, the freedom to be a baby mama, the freedom to be a baby daddy, the freedom to change yourself into somebody you're not. The only thing that makes you free is equality, black folks. You think because you get a vote, you can go vote for somebody that makes you free. Are you crazy? It's the biggest thing we talked about in South Africa last week. The vote ain't what South Africa needs. They need development. Black America needs development. You would have played musical chairs. You running around talking about should we vote for Hillary. You caught up in that nonsense? That ain't nothing but political entertainment. Presidents are chosen 4 years in advance. They already know who's going to sit in that chair. They just playing with you to give you the illusion of inclusion. Democracy. Really? You fall for that? Some of y'all drunk that Obama Kool-Aid 7 years ago. You're throwing up now, though. I was the only scholar in America, only one, who dared say that by the time that man leave office, black folk will be in the state worse than what was under Bush and his father. And I'm correct. How did you know that by the time Obama left office, black folks would be in severe trouble? Because whenever a Negro gets elected to political office, the black person under them do worse. Why? Because black politicians are not elected off of black money. They are elected by white money from the Democratic Party. So if I am a black man running for mayor in Troy, Alabama, and I want to do good by my own black people, but I have to get the Democratic Party to finance my campaign, when I win, whose agenda you think I'm going to carry out? The agenda of black folk or the agenda of the white folk who got me elected in the first place? So that means what? I'm not even blaming Obama. I'm blaming you. It's your fault. Obama doing what Obama's supposed to do. Sell you out. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Because you're the one who danced in the streets. Oh, my Savior has come. Jesus complex. Obama's going to save black folks. And then he didn't do nothing the first 4 years, and so y'all danced in the streets again. I got people dancing now. They say, wait a minute, Doc. His last year, 2016, he gonna put on a Superman cape to save black folks. Listen, we don't need no black politician. See, my self-esteem isn't so low that I need the president to look like me. I ain't got that complex. You might have it. I don't need the mayor to look like me. I don't need the state rep to look like me. I don't need the governor to look like me. I don't need a black face. I need black power. When you have organized power, it doesn't matter if the president black or white. He's going to do your bidding because he knows if he doesn't, you're going to vote him up out of office. Have you seen the Chinese or the Arab or the East Indians? You know, the ones who run every store in your community? Have you seen them trying to run for president of the United States? Why are they not trying to become president? Because they figured out the game. I ain't got to be the man in the office. I got to be the man with the purse that slides it to the man in the office. What did John D. Rockefeller say? He said, give me control over a nation's wealth. Give me control over the money of a nation. I don't care who made the laws. Money runs America. Politics don't run America. Every United States senator is a millionaire. Every president was a millionaire. Every Supreme Court justice was a millionaire. And some of you saying, I'm a political science major and I was never told that a day in my life. Because Troy University's job isn't to make you think critically about your reality. It's to teach you to believe it as right and true. This is why we need our own schools for black children. Because school doesn't teach our kids how to think, it teaches them what to think. Christopher Columbus discovered America, but wasn't there people already here? Yeah, he discovered them. Public school in America is a religion. It's not a science. They tell your kids what America needs them to believe so they can function as Negroes at the bottom of the economic food chain. Right. Public school tells a kid where you belong, not where you can go. Do you realize right now, as you sit here, only one black boy out of every 4 in this country will get a high school diploma? Are you aware of that? We have a 25% black male graduation rate in the most post-racial society in the world. What would happen in America if only 1 out of every 4 white boys graduated? Public school would stop until they fix the problem. But remember, you have post-traumatic slavery disease. So you keep on going like everything's all right. Your sons are being turned into a permanent underclass, but you don't care because you got a nice car outside. So the power structure has reduced your concept of freedom to material acquisition. And I'm going to begin to wrap up. And maybe we could take a few questions. And before I do, I'm going to make sure you have my contact information in case you want to reach me. Because this summer, I'm hosting the Dr. Umar Johnson Black Boy College Tour for 11 to 17-year-old black boys. And some of you have sons who need to be on my tour because you ain't teaching them nothing at home. You know what he's doing at home? He's watching Scandal, in the reality shows, in BET, Black Extermination Television. And he sits up with his mama and daddy watching Empire. Now let's decode this for a minute. Check it out. This is the #1 show in America. Black. That means white folks watch it. Because remember, white folks don't generally watch black shows unless we're acting like idiots. That's why Empire is so famous. Yes, that's a fact. Serious black shows, they have the lowest ratings. A nice documentary on how black folks are improving their condition, who's going to watch that? They want to see killers and goofballs. That's it. This is a science. So let's talk about Empire. You have Lucius Lyon, Hakeem, Jamal, and Andre. Lucius Lyon, power-hungry black male, can't stand his baby mama. He uses women for what he needs them for and discards them. Then you have his son, Hakeem. He's hyper-masculine like his dad. Can't stand his mother, don't trust black women, uses them and throws them out. Then you have Andre, Ivy League, bourgeoisie, married to a white girl. And then you have Jamal, hyper-feminine, in love with a white male. So here's my question. You have 4 leading black men in the same mini-series. Lucius, Hakeem, Jamal, and Andre. Has anyone here stopped for a minute to realize that you have the #1 show in the country? 4 black men in leading roles, and not a single one has a positive relationship with a black woman. Not one of them. and you got your son watching this, and your daughter watching this, and you think it's cute. This is the war against the black family, and you participate in it. Scandal. Olivia Pope. Here's a black woman, highly educated, cannot find a black man anywhere to satisfy her psychologically, sexually, and emotionally. She would rather be the prostitute to the president of the United States, whose wife she knows, no black man, not even her father, can she stand. But whenever the white man in the White House calls, she goes running. Black woman, this was your #1 show until Cookie came out with Lucius. Why was Scandal the #1 show for black women in America? Because some of you same sisters will say brothers ain't got no business dating outside their race. And I agree with you. But you watching a show with a sister dating outside of hers. Now psychologically, there's a little bit of you, sister, in everything you like.
Come on.
So if you love Scandal, somewhere inside of you, even you fake cultural nationalists, somewhere inside of you, you desire to be Olivia Pope. Oh yeah. Tyler Perry came out with all his movies.
Teach hard, brother.
War against the black. Why did I get married? Everybody in the movie is dysfunctional. 4 couples and they all sick. And then he came back. Why did I get married again? Damn, I heard you the first time. And then he gave you Temptation. And what was the one that he adapted off of the sisters' play? Oh my God, for color. Did you see that film? Whoopi was schizophrenic, spiritual or something. Everybody crazy. But I want y'all to see the pattern. What is going on? They are attacking the black family. They are feeding into us, not liking each other. Black man don't like the black woman. Black woman don't like the black man. Feminism, masculinism. Listen, in African culture, the lowest unit of identity is not the person. We do not have an individual concept in African culture. The family is the basic unit. So there's no such thing as splitting me from my woman. And there's no such thing as splitting the woman from her man. We fight as a unit. Black man, black woman, black child was the original trinity of the universe. As I wrap this up, Black Boy College Tour. There will be 2. There will be a North Tour leaving from Harlem and returning. There will be a South Tour leaving from Atlanta and returning. There will be 1 tour in June, another in August. And we will be joined by African brothers and sisters from around the world. I'm a Pan-Africanist, so all African people are my family, not just y'all. I just happen to be with y'all. But there will be brothers and sisters from Canada, from England, South Africa's coming, Jamaica's coming, Haiti's coming. Because as Pan-Africanists, what do we believe? All African people are one family. We also believe that we identify with the family before we identify with anything else. I'm a black man first. Not a Christian who black, but a black who Christian. You're African before you Muslim. You're African before you Hebrew. You're African before you female. You're African before you male. You're African before you Q, Delta, Zeta, Alpha. Why are you African before your Greek fraternity? Why are you African before your religion? Why are you African before your profession? Why are you African before your Masonic temple? You want to know why? Because your church, your sorority, your fraternity, your lodge, your professional association, these are all superficial. What do I mean by superficial? Not irrelevant, but superficial from the perspective that you chose them. And if you wanted to, you could give them back. There's only one thing you belong to that you did not choose and could never give back. And that is your Africanity.
God made you black. You made yourself everything else. So we identify as being African before we identify with anything else. What else do we believe as Pan-Africanists? We believe that black people in America will never get equality. Black people in England will never get equality. Black people in Canada will never get equality. Black people in South Africa will never get equality. Black people in South America will never get equality until we unite globally and rise as a family. Your oppression is global. The same hell you catch right here in Alabama, they catch it in Toronto, catch it in London, catch it in South Africa, catch it in Nigeria, because even though colonialism is over, white power still runs Africa. So the only way we're going to eliminate that is to unite globally and fight racism. That's why your civil rights thing didn't do nothing for you, because you didn't tie it to what was going on around the world. You just want to fight the black American thing. But you got one problem fighting the black American thing. You don't produce nothing. You don't own nothing. You control nothing. So why would anybody take you seriously? So you got to reach out to allies around the world, people who look like you. In case you don't know, there's more people who look like you in the world than look like anybody else. I was in Manchester, England last month. They invited me to keynote the 70th commemoration of the 1945 Pan-African Congress. This was one of the biggest Pan-African Congresses. W.E.B. Du Bois, Amy Ashwood Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta. This was the 70th year, so I went and I keynoted that. And the question came up. They said, can we have non-African participation in the black struggle? I said, hell no. No, I need y'all to understand why, because we have white folk here and I want them to understand me for themselves. The reason we do not believe in non-African participation in our organizations, because black folk have been so psychologically crippled. You have been so psychologically crippled that you have to prove to yourself that you know how to do it. We're not keeping them out because we hate them. We're keeping them out because you need to believe in you before you start believing in somebody else. Remember what I said earlier? We have the Christ complex. If a white person comes into a black organization, subconsciously you start looking to them to solve your problems. You look to them to finance the organization. You look for them to always come up with the solution. Because remember, you was worshiping white people on the wall since you was 5 years old. So we do it ourselves. What is to be done for black people must be done by black people. That's not racist. When you go to a European Jewish synagogue, do you see anybody in there but European Jews? When you go to a Korean town hall meeting, do you see anybody in there except Koreans? When you go to the Arab masjid, do you see anybody in there but Arabs? When you go to the Italian community, do you see anybody else helping them solve their problems except Italians? So why can't black people solve their problems by themselves? We're not against nobody, but we're for ourselves. But we're not going to waste time justifying why we are for ourselves. I started the unapologetically African movement because too many of you are afraid to be black. You don't like your color, you don't like your lips, you don't like your hair, you don't like your skin. You hate anything black. Even now you hate anything black. One of the reasons you love Obama so much is because he don't look like you. That's right. So the North Tour, we're going to take your son to the Apollo Theater. We're going to take him to the Audubon Ballroom where Malcolm X was murdered, which is now the Malcolm X and Betty Shabazz Center. We're going to take him to Malcolm X's gravesite, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad gravesite, Paul Robeson's gravesite. They're all buried in the same cemetery. We're going to take him to Lincoln University, Cheney University, the two oldest historically black colleges in the country, up in Philadelphia, my town. We're going to take him to Baltimore to the Great Blacks and Wax Museum, the Frederick Douglass House, my blood ancestor. We're going to take them to Coppin State, Morgan State, Bowie State. They're going to go to the National Civil Rights Museum, which should be done by then in D.C. Okay? We're also going to take them to my family's ancestral graveyard. For those of you who know me, know I'm related to Frederick Douglass, but most of my ancestors are buried in a graveyard that's only a few feet from where they were once enslaved in Maryland. I'm gonna take your sons to go and see that. They're gonna go to the Frederick Douglass Museum, the Frederick Douglass House. I'm also gonna take them to Virginia, to the Nat Turner Trail. They're gonna experience the trail, the path that Nat Turner and his soldiers took when they fought against white power in that slave revolt on August the 21st, 1831, my birthday. We're also going to take them to the beach. They're going to go paintballing. In the daytime, it's the museums and the colleges. In the evening time, they would meet in the hotel, conference center. What are we talking about? Why you need to respect black women, your mother, dealing with peer pressure, dealing with depression and sadness and anger, conflict resolution, African history, white power, starting your own business, what to do when you get stopped by the police. Seminars every night teaching your son how to be a man. In the evening, the South Tour, Atlanta, Dr. King Grave, Dr. Crane Shrine. We're going to go to the Selma, well, we're going to come here because we got to do Selma, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. We got 3 Civil War trails there. Then we got to take them to Memphis, to the National Civil Rights Museum, which is the hotel where Dr. King was murdered. That's now the National Civil Rights Museum. We're going to take them to South Carolina, to the Charleston, South Carolina boat tour. You know, most of our ancestors came here from Africa through Charleston. More black people came through Charleston, South Carolina than any other point in America. So we want to take your sons there to see where the ancestors came in. Also in South Africa is the Oyotunji African village, the only spiritual village in America that is given that type of legitimacy in Africa. Where else we got? So much stuff. They're going to be packed. It's going to be 8 nights, 9 days. The cost is going to be about $1,200 per child. I don't make any money off. I don't do what I do for money. Okay? So all that goes on the food, admission, hotel, bus. They're going to have fun. They're going to meet other young black men, and they're going to learn what it's like to be black men. That's right. Now, if you're one of those colorblind Negroes, because some of y'all colorblind, you don't think people know you black. If you're one of them, don't sing your son on my tour. Because when he come back, he gonna be pro-black. And that ain't gonna work for you. Because you wanna be post-racial. Well, we ain't post-racial. Okay? I'm not doing the girls this summer. I'm gonna do the girls next summer. To my ladies. Okay? Why am I not doing the girls this summer? Because you know what happens when boys and girls get together. Conception can take place. And I don't need that on my watch, because y'all talk about me all over Facebook. I sent my daughter on that man's door. She came back with twins. In conclusion, I want to say, if there's any parent in here who ever has an issue with your child, mental health or education, every Tuesday morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I believe is 5 to 7 Central. You guys are Central, I believe. I have a free black parent teleconference. You can call in, ask me any question you want about your child. So after the day, I don't want to hear about any parents in Alabama talking about, they wanted to kick my son out. I didn't know what to do. They said if I didn't put him on medicine, he couldn't come back. They told me my son was autistic, da 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 da. You have an expert in the field who you can get free advice from. There's no excuses. Okay? When we're done here tonight, make sure you get a copy of my book up there, Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD War Against Black Boys. Even if you're raising a girl, you better read it. Why? Because you wrote it? No. Because it's the only book, the only one ever written in this country's history by a black school psychologist that teaches you how to fight the system legally. If you don't want your son in special ed, he don't have to go to special ed. You write a letter to the principal. I do not consent to having my child tested. I do not believe my son is learning disabled, but I do know why he can't read on grade level, and that's because the teacher he had last year could barely read herself. And the teacher that he had 2 years before came fresh out of college. She was a first-year teacher, straight from Troy, Alabama. She never taught black kids a day in her life, and she didn't know what she was doing. And then 2-3 years before, my son was suspended from school so much. My son was suspended from school so much, he wasn't in class long enough to learn. How about the teacher went out on maternity leave in January, and my son had 15 substitutes from January to June, and you got the nerve to tell me he got a reading disability? How about you have a teaching disability? And the whole school got an academic disability, and the district got an instructional disability. Listen, parents, don't let the school dictate the terms. You dictate the terms. You don't let them call you in and surround you with a whole team of people. Mothers know what I'm talking about, don't you? You come to the school about your son, one black mother, they bring in 15 people. The principal, vice principal, nurse, counselor, school psychologist, social worker, basketball coach, bus driver, window sweeper, floor buffer, for one black mom. You know why they do that? Why they do that, Mom? You're talking to a principal. Let me tell you why we do that. I don't do that. The reason my colleagues do that is to intimidate you. They figure that if they load up on you with people who got degrees, you believe that they know more about your child than you do. Well, let me give you some clarity, black parents. I'm a master school psychologist. I believe I'm the best on the planet. But guess what? I can never know your child better than you. And you better stop thinking other people know your child better than you. Mother, when you get a tinkle in your stomach that say this ain't right, it ain't right. That's God talking to you. Follow your gut. And then they start playing games on you. Well, if he don't get the help he needs, we're afraid that Raheem might fall even further behind, and he'll be in danger of repeating. And now they got you all terrified, you shaking in there. And the next thing you know, you signed your son on. Which is why I'm going to tell you now, never go to a school meeting by yourself. Did y'all hear me, mothers? Never go to the school by yourself. Take somebody with you. You always need a witness. Black father, you need a witness too. What I need a witness for? I'm not scared of the school. You know why you need a witness? Because the first time you tell them your son ain't going on medicine, and you say it with some testosterone, that teacher gonna say, he looked like he was about to get violent. His pupils swelled, and I didn't know what to do. My heart started beating. You know I'm on medication. And the next thing you know, the police are coming in with handcuffs, and you get escorted out. And guess what you get in the mail in 2 days? Black father, because you want to go to meetings by yourself. You get a restraining order in the mail that says you can never come to this school again. You can't even come pick up the report card, and no, you're not allowed at graduation either. I know with 30 black fathers who could never go to the school again because they did not listen and they went by themselves, and then the teacher lied and made it look like he was going to get violent when all he did was raise his voice because he cared about his son, and now they can't go back into the school. Listen to me, parents. The school is not your friend. The public school is an extension of the criminal injustice system. Do you understand? So if the public school is an extension of the jail, guess who the new police are? The school teachers. Now, I need some of y'all to work at my school. If you want to work at my school, send me your resume. We're about 1.5 years away from the school, but I want your resume now. We need math and science and social studies teachers. We need teachers who can speak African language, if anybody here speaks an African language, because I'm not giving my kids no European language until they learn the African language first. Enough of the slave master syndrome, okay? I need sisters who know how to do natural hair, because every girl going to be natural. No perms in my house, none, zilch, okay? So if you know how to do natural hair, we need you at the school. I need brothers who know how to cut hair. I need people who know how to farm, because we're going to be farmers. I need people who know how to do veterinary medicine. Well, my Tuskegee students had that veterinary medicine program down at Tuskegee. Okay? Because some black kids like playing with animals and stuff. They like messing with stuff that don't need to be messed with. You know, that's not normally our culture though, you know what I mean? We don't normally mess with stuff if it ain't meant to be messed with. We see a big snake, I'm cool, he cool. But that's not how other people are. They gotta mess with everything. Let's go touch it, see what it does. So if you want to send me your resume, we need secretaries, house parents that live with the children in the dorm. My school will be residential. They're going to stay overnight. Some of y'all, why they got to stay overnight? Why? I don't want my kids to spend the night over there. I want my son back with me. He can't come home. Why? Because you sick. You got post-traumatic. I can't sit. Listen, you give me your son for 7 hours. I give him back to you for the other 14 hours. Everything I teach him in the day, he's going to undo by night. You understand? So he can't come home to y'all because y'all went to public school. Y'all pledged allegiance 180 times a year for 13 years. You sick. So he's not coming back. He got a white Jesus. He can't come there. You can come visit, but you got to be off when the sun go down because I don't trust you. You try to put a white Jesus on the wall, perm your daughter hair when I'm not looking. I know black people. I'm a psychologist. I know y'all sick. So send me your resume. Resumes can be sent to fdmgresumes@gmail.com. F for Frederick, D for Douglas, M for Marcus, G for Garvey. fdmgresumes@gmail.com. Ladies, if you're going to work at my school, you got to be natural. You ain't got to be natural now. But when the school open, make sure your new growth is back. Stop. Make it grow. I'm a barber. I cut. When I went to a military high school, they taught us how to cut, so I know all about the new growth. And some of y'all sisters been permanent so much, you know how you get them patches. So you need time to grow that back. So if there's any brother in here, you got a queen with a patch, I want you to get some hot shea butter and rub it in her scalp real good. And get some scalp. And it'll start growing back. In conclusion, let me give y'all my phone number so you can add me on WhatsApp. Ladies, it ain't that type of party. I'm fresh off one scandal, I don't need another. Phone number 215-989-9858. I repeat twice, 215-989-9858. One more time, 215-989-9858. I do not answer the phone, but I do respond to texts, as long as it's a brief text. Doc, I heard you coming to Tuskegee. When? That type of stuff. I need the Tuesday morning Black Parent teleconference number. I can give you that. I need a flyer for Baltimore. I need a flyer for California State University. I need a flyer for Jamaica. I need a flyer for London. Anything like that, you text me. If it's a long book about your son, that's an email. You don't text me that. People text me a whole book. The text message ain't made for that many characters. You gotta email it. Okay? If you're on social network, you can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Umar Johnson. D-R-U-M-A-R Johnson. No period, no space. D-R-U-M-A-R Johnson on Instagram and Twitter. Facebook, I use my Yoruba last name, Ifatunde. So if you're on Facebook, you go to Dr. Umar Ifatunde. I-F-A-T-U-N-D-E. 97,000 likes. That's how you know you got the right page. Be careful, because I got like 10 fake profiles on Facebook that was put up by the FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, and haters in the Conscience Committee. So make sure you're not on one of those. Ifatunde, I-F-A-T-U-N-D-E. Dr. Umar Ifatunde. Email address, drumarjohnson@yahoo.com. Website, drumarjohnson.com. New website, which will be ready next month, is unapologeticallyafrican.com. When I leave you guys, I speak at St. Augustine's College Saturday night in Raleigh, which is already sold out. No more tickets left for that. And then I speak at Source of Knowledge Bookstore in Newark, New Jersey, in case you got some family up there. Sunday, this coming Sunday, 4 o'clock. And then I'm at California State University Long Beach campus for the Black Consciousness Conference. I'm keynoting that Saturday the 21st. And then I'm in Killeen, Texas, Sunday the 22nd for the Natural Black Health and Hair Fair. And then I got Baltimore on Friday the 27th. Boycott Black Friday. is the lecture. And then I'm off to Nigeria for 3 weeks, okay? And then I'm back for Kwanzaa, Houston, Texas, December the 26th, Atlanta, Georgia, Monday the 28th, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, Tuesday the 29th, Detroit, Michigan, Wednesday the 30th, Jackson, Mississippi, on January the 1st. Let me give you my closing quote from Frederick Douglass, my great ancestor. And by the way, my family came to America in 1701. A black man by the name of Bailey stole it from Nigeria. He was brought to Talbot County, Eastern Shore, Maryland. He married a black woman named Selah. In 1745, they had a daughter named Jenny. In 1774, 2 years before the Declaration of Independence, Grandma Jenny gave birth to Grandma Betsy. Grandma Betsy married a free black man named Isaac. They had 12 children. One was named Harriet, another one was named Young Bessie. These two sisters, Harriet and Bessie, was raped by the white man who owned my family, Aaron Anthony. May he burn in hell forever. As a result of the rape, Aunt Harriet gave birth to Frederick Bailey. At the age of 20, Uncle Fred ran away from slavery. He dropped the family name Bailey and picked up Douglas, not because he didn't like the name, but he needed to hide. Because the fugitive slave law said that the slave master could come and get you in a free state and bring you back to a slave state. Well, guess what? The next year, young Betsy gave birth to Frederick's brother and cousin, my great 4 times great-grandfather, Stephen Henry Bailey. Frederick and Stephen were brothers because the slave master was their daddy, but they were also cousins because their mothers were sisters. He raped 2 sisters. So, the Civil War pops off. Uncle Fred doesn't fight. He sends his 2 sons, Lewis and Charles. They fought in the 54th Massachusetts Colored Regiment. Anybody ever see the movie Glory? Glory is about the sons of Frederick Douglass. My grandfather Stephen married a black woman on the same slave plantation, Grandma Caroline, who didn't learn to read until 1909, the year the NAACP was founded. Their firstborn son was George Washington Bailey, my great-grandfather, the first black public school teacher in Talbot County, Maryland. Well, when the Civil War was over, after Grandpa Stephen and George fought, Grandpa George married Grandma Annie. They had a daughter, Grandma Caroline, who moved to Philadelphia. She had Grandma Vivian. Grandma Vivian married Grandpa Cicero, who was from Cuba, Spanish-speaking African. They had Grandma Ida, who married Grandpa James Johnson. And they had Jamal Johnson, and he married Barbara. And on August the 21st, 1974, I was born in North Philadelphia. Know your history. Teach it to your children. Religion is good. Knowledge itself is better. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess the faith of freedom and depreciate agitation are like men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want the rain, but they don't want to deal with the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean, but they're scared of the roar of the waters. He said the struggle we have might be moral, or it might be physical, or it might be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. He said, for 20 years, I prayed on my knees to God for freedom. But the good Lord gave Frederick no freedom until I got up off my knees and started praying with my feet. He said, you might not get everything that you work for in this world, but you will pay for everything you get. And these must be paid for with blood or with boldness or with both, but you must pay. He said, if you want respect for white people, why you keep looking for pity? The man who pities you will never respect you, and the man who respects you has no need for pity. He said, but most of all, you remember, power conceives nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Marcus Garvey said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Marcus Garvey was once asked, are you African or are you Jamaican? Are you African or are you Jamaican? And in response to that, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, leader of the largest black organization of all time, the man who Malcolm's father came from, and Malcolm's mother came from, and Minister Farrakhan's people came from, and Dr. King was inspired from. You can't talk to me about no organization unless you talk about the man who started them off, and that was Marcus Garvey. He said, you ask me, am I African or am I Jamaican? I answer by saying, I would never give up a continent for an island. I am African. Yesterday, today, and for all time. Alabama, one love! And that's my song, by the way. That's my song. That was Sam Cooke. Why was Sam Cooke murdered? Sam Cooke was murdered because he was the first black artist to own his own masters to his own music. And he told Malcolm X and Dr. King that once they come together, he was going to finance the new civil rights movement. And that's why he was murdered 3 weeks before Malcolm was. They said that he was shot by a prostitute in the hotel, but they found out later that he was beaten to death by the Italian mafia in connection with the FBI. Same thing as Tupac, same thing as Whitney, same thing as Michael Jackson. Why did they kill Michael Jackson? Because Michael Jackson owned the Beatles catalog, and he owned half of Elvis's catalog, and Sony Records wanted the Beatles catalog back, and Mike said, I'm not giving it back, so they killed him. Why did they murder Tupac? Because Tupac was working with the Crips and Bloods in L.A. to politicize the gangs. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was leader of the new Black Panther Party in New York, and they was afraid that the #1 rapper of all time, #1 selling rapper, was also a revolutionary committed to the cause, so they had to murder Tupac. So a lot of you brothers talk about you want to get into the music business, you better think twice about it, because the music business is a secret society, easy to get in, but it's hard to get out. Make sure y'all sign my sign-up list for the National Independent Black Parent Association, Alabama chapter. We want to organize the parents into a strong organization, special ed committee, discipline committee, social committee, finance committee, homeschool committee for parents who want to homeschool, and a parent advocacy committee. That's also my email list. I didn't come here to hold church. I'm about getting work done. But I can preach if I need. But make sure you sign my email list. Alabama, one love.